Old Bloke goes to Camelot. Well, we are allowed, I'm informed, for the time being, to go a walk for an hour. Only from the house is the way I'm playing it, so somewhere within half an hour striking distance. Having done this walk thousands of times, I know I can make it as far as the Jesus Rocks, as I call them. This wee collection of tumble-down rocks that sit above Renton Reservoir are accessible via the steep farm track at the back of my house. Now, the interesting thing about these rocks is that they sit on the site of a very ancient fort. I've walked up to them for the last 50 years, been taken up there on Sunday afternoons with Father, as I called him. Not just my godfather, he was also Father Wilding, the local Episcopal vicar. A fantastic man, who taught me loads about nature and music. I basically wouldn't be the old bloke I am now without him. And why, I hear you say, do I call them the Jesus Rocks? Was it because that very godly man, Father, took me up there in the first place? No, it is because the biggest of the rocks was actually daubed in red paint. Some religious vandal had written Jesus Saves on it, years and years ago. I would in later years solve that wee mystery as to who did that, but I'll cover that later. Back to the fort. The Carman Hill Fort, or possibly Camelot. What? I hear you say. Isn't that down in Cornwall or something? Or Wales, or is it not just a myth? No, it isn't. Or at least that's what some people say. You see, after the Romans split around 400 AD, one of the tribes in this area, the Damoni, got themselves organised and built their capital near or possibly even at the spot I'm heading for. They were also known as the Strathclyde Britons, and the history buffs all pretty much agree that King Arthur was a king of that very same tribe, just before St Kessa got as far as Loch Lomond, probably between 470 and 500 AD. This is where I'm going to quote one of those history buffs, because he carries a bit more weight and authority than me, as does Scobie, the local historian who first drew my attention to a certain Professor Ian Grimble. This is what he said. After the Roman legions had left, the British kingdoms of southern Scotland fought to maintain themselves against the Picts and the Scots to the north, and against the expansionist English of Northumbria to the south. In their Welsh language, the earliest surviving Scottish poem was composed, telling of the defeat of the Gododin heroes by the English. This poem, first committed to writing at Dumbarton Rock, contains far the earliest reference to the British resistance leader Arthur. When the early British kingdoms of Gododin, Wales, being the only part of the once predominantly British Isles in which their language remains to this day, the story of Arthur travelled south until he was given a new setting as far south as Tintagel, in Welsh-speaking Cornwall. I'm sure Mr. Grimble was a very lovely man, but it's just the kind of voice I hear in my head when I hear the word professor. So perhaps Arthur stayed at one of the oldest Dark Age forts found, this being the hill fort at Carman, or the Jesus Rocks as I call them. I'm actually standing now at the centre of that unearthed fort. It once had ditches, stone ramparts and proper approach roads and stuff. And it was 150 yards in diameter, which makes it bigger than Dinad, and probably existed even before Dumbarton Castle was built. Where I'm sitting now, and I'm going to have to watch my time by the way, could have been the ancient seat of King Arthur. So, it's in the right spot, and at the right time in history, when Arthur was ruling. So, it could in fact, maybe even should be, by reasoning, Camelot. Roll up, get your free guided tour tickets here, and by the way, parking will be 10 quid an hour. I can just see it. I always knew that my Jesus Rocks were special. Oh, back to the mystery vandal. Well, about 10 years ago, I wrote a book called The Magic Scales, which, because of the different publishers getting involved, is now called Talisman and Citadel. In one book became two. And one of the focal parts of that book is the Jesus Rocks, where I'm standing now. For kids, big and small, the story begins with a boy hero and his dad disappearing up at the Jesus Rocks, which it turns out are a portal to other worlds. There's a magic wizard goldfish in the mix. There's all sorts of family intrigue and tensions. And there's huge battles between all sorts of monsters and dark creatures. It's almost as weird as real life. Is this lockdown? Anyway, feel free to get the Kindle version, which is maybe safer a bit, or the book itself if you get your plastic gloves on, from Amazon. Talisman by Paul Murdoch. In fact, I think the originals are still in Kindle form. That is, the Magic Scales books, or the Denton series, written by Sam Welding in this case, another of my pseudonyms. Oh yes, that religious vandal. Well, he came to light after a local newspaper article on Talisman, in which I mentioned the Jesus rocks. Well, this flushed him out, and he turned out to be a lovely guy, with a real strong belief that guided him on his wee crusade to enlighten the locals. It was great to meet him, and we had a wee pilgrimage up to the rocks with a local magazine called the Clysider, which is a great magazine by the way, to get some pictures at Camelot before the sun went down. There's a wee pic of that very moment on my website. What about Excalibur, I hear you say? Well, in my opinion, a young lad called William stumbled upon it in the late 13th century, pulled it from a stone somewhere up here, and put it to use against another king. It hung in Dunbreton for a while, a mere stroll from Camelot. It's now in Stirling. I believe it's in the Wallace Monument. So, remember, get that Kindle version of Talisman by Paul Murdoch or The Magic Scales with Sam Welding and start the journey to Denton with all its amazing mysteries along the way. On my journey down the hill, I get a wee bit breathless because it's pretty steep, and we head towards a wee wall. There's a stile and a very muddy, ditchy bit, boggy bit, where you always get your feet wet, and then you're in amongst the gorse, and then there it is, a wee house on your right, standing high above the Vale of Leven. The remains of that wee house are quite important to me, because my granny was brought up there as a wee girl. She used to walk up and down the hill to school. Imagine that, every day, up and down, up and down. What a great view she had. I wonder what the view was like back in 1907. Maybe somebody's got an old picture of the Vale for then. Anyway, in these crazy times, stay in if you can. Stay safe. And here's hoping we'll soon be past the worst, eh? So, until next time, ciao for now! Oh no, what have I just stood in?